Borrowers? When do they ever give stuff back? Hello lovely people of YouTube and welcome back to Mark on Life and Ghibli Time! Thank you so much to everyone who watched last week's episode, which was Ponyo. If you haven't seen that episode, I will leave a link in the description below and at the end of this video. This week we are covering one of my absolute favourites. I know I say that each week, but it's true. We are covering Arrietty. Arrietty first came out on the 17th of July 2010, and as a lot of other Studio Ghiblis, it was the #1 box office Japanese film in Japan in that year. Japanese title for this one is Karigurashi no Arrietty, so it just means the borrower Arrietty, basically. It's also sometimes known as the secret world of Arrietty in Europe, but again, like Ponyo, title has been shortened down, so it's just known as Arrietty. Director of Arrietty is Hiromasa Yonebayashi. He was one of the animators on a bunch of very, very important Studio Ghiblis, but this was his directorial debut. And he also went on to direct When Marnie Was There, which we'll cover in a couple of weeks. Music is an odd choice. It's not by one of the in-house people like Joe Hisaishi or anything. It was done by a French singer called Cécile Corbel, who was a Ghibli fan and sent her sort of a letter with her album to Studio Ghibli in 2009, and they responded, if only it was that easy, and brought her in to do the music for Arrietty. And I gotta say, Joe Hisaishi may be the king of Ghibli music, but Cécile Corbel may be the queen then, because this soundtrack is brilliant. It may be my favourite Ghibli soundtrack of all. It's just fantastic. It's sort of a mixture of Japanese, but it really sounds like a sort of Irish folk kind of song. That's the kind of the vibe for the whole soundtrack, made by a French singer. So sort of a very weird sort of mix of backgrounds, but it's just absolutely beautiful. It's the only soundtrack in Ghibli that I actually have the soundtrack separately on my iPhone. So yeah, really, really like the music on this one. As I'm sure you know, it is based on source material, The Borrowers, the novel by Mary Norton. Miyazaki wanted to adapt this for years and years and years, and in 2008 started the process. So it took a couple of years. Obviously Miyazaki didn't direct it, but he did write it with somebody else, the screenplay that comes from Norton's novel. Interestingly enough, there are 2 English dubs, one by Studio Canal and one by Disney. For anybody in the UK, which I am, you will probably have the Studio Canal one, which has a fantastic cast. It has the 2 young leads, which are Saoirse Ronan and Tom Holland, and then Mark Strong and Olivia Colman as the Arrietty's parents. But there's also a Disney dub with people like Will Arnett and Amy Poehler in. I've heard a bit of it. I've got to be honest, the Studio Canal one is better. They're all good. Japanese is obviously the best track, but if you're going to go for one, try and get the Studio Canal dub. It is very, very good. So what happens in Arrietty then? Well, we're set in 2010 in West Tokyo in a place called Kogane, which, ironically enough, is exactly where the Studio Ghibli building is. We're centred around 2 young characters. On the one hand, we have a young boy called Sho, who is very ill, dying in fact, and about to have his heart operated on. And he is living for a week in the house where his mother grew up. And right from the beginning, when he's in the garden, he thinks he sees something, a little thing moving in the plant, but doesn't know exactly what it is, so he moves on. On the other side, we have our borrowers. And we centre around Arrietty, young girl of 13, living with her mum and dad, Pod and Homily. As borrowers, they go into humans' houses and borrow stuff, although they don't give it back, as I said. Steal stuff, really. Things that they think that humans won't need, like a sugar cube or this or that, little bits and pieces. And this is time for Arrietty's first borrow. It's usually Pod, the father, going out to do it alone. She's going to go out too. And Mum's very nervous, you know, she wants Arrietty. Even though Arrietty's very brave, it's very dangerous to do it. Especially as there is a new human around now. And so they go out, and it all goes well, and it's exciting, it's a bit of an adventure, until they are seen. Pod and Arrietty are seen by this young boy, Show, and then they disappear. And so Mum and Dad are thinking, well, that's it. We've been seen by humans. The only way we survive is hiding away. We're going to have to move. We're going to have to move away and start again. Show is living with his aunt and a sort of governess called Haru. His parents are divorced and both too busy and away and never really see him. And so he's sort of recuperating in this house away from everything else. Around dinner, they start talking about this very beautiful, elaborate doll's house that they have. And it comes out that actually it was built by the aunt's father as a place for the borrowers to live, because he sort of knew of them back in the day. Never got to do it, never got to see them and have them live there, and they've never been seen since. However, Show has seen them. He has seen Arrietty, and he starts building a tiny friendship with her, although the parents do not think this is a good idea because humans are inherently dangerous. Meanwhile, Father Pod has been out borrowing and comes back with a sort of busted ankle, and he's been helped back by this other borrower called Spiller, which fills them with hope because they didn't know that there was another borrower in the world. They thought they'd all gone or died out, even their distant family, and seeing another one is really exciting for them. So Show is sort of a little bit more friendly with them, and he takes the kitchen from the doll's house and gives it to the borrowers. At this point, Haru is thinking she is seeing things and knowing what's going on, and she finds the little house and captures the mum, Homily, and puts her in a jam jar, as well as calling pest control. So it's not looking good for the borrowers. So obviously Arrietty is distressed, and because her mum is gone, so goes to find Show so they can go off and rescue her. And you know, that's all I'm going to tell you for now. I want you to discover the rest on your own. What happens to Arrietty? And her mum? Do they rescue her mum? Do they find her? What about the dad? Does he recuperate? Who is Spiller? Will Show ever get to actually have a friendship with Arrietty? Will they have to go? Can they stay? I will leave it all up to you. So, do I recommend Arrietty? Yes, absolutely, 100% yes. It's just brilliant. Right back to the classic charming sort of Ghiblis of Ponyo, My Neighbor Totoro, that kind of thing. The animation is spectacular. The house that they live in is just so beautiful. The outside house, the main house, is lovely, but then the borrower's house itself, the detail, the attention to detail is just incredible. You have, you know, all their little furniture and bits and bobs made as you would with the odds and ends that they have around them. It's just beautiful, the whole thing. The soundtrack, as I said, spectacularly good. Voice dubbing, great. Yeah, it's an absolute recommend from me. Blu-ray is a really, really great transfer. I got myself the collector's edition, so it comes with a bunch of nice little art cards and stuff. So yes, can't recommend it enough. Go get it now. Thank you so much for watching. If you like this video, give me a big thumbs up. It really does help. Leave me a comment. Have you seen Arrietty? What did you think? And subscribe to my channel to see more. Next week, we're going to cover a lesser known Ghibli, but an absolutely brilliant one, From Up on Poppy Hill. I'm on all the usual social media platforms, as you know. Twitter, Instagram are Mark Joseph Actor, so go follow me there now. Click over here somewhere to see last week's episode, which was Ponyo, and click over here somewhere to see my movie-based comedy series, Retrospectives. So I will see you all right back here next week for From Up on Poppy Hill. But from me, Mark on Life and GhibliTime, I will speak to you soon.